È ora la volta di parlare di business, di che cosa sta succedendo nei principali paesi o di che cosa è successo nei principali paesi dove l'ebook ha già una crescita e una dimensione importanti e quali sono le lezioni che questi paesi hanno da raccontarci. Quindi questo si entra nel vivo dei temi che forse toccano più tutte le persone che fanno business o che sono interessate a fare business intorno all'editoria digitale. Quindi chiamo sul palco Mike Shatzkin, che è il fondatore e CEO di Ideological Company, nonché un blogger. Il suo blog è seguitissimo in tutto il mondo. Mike.
Thank you. Good morning. We're going to talk about the lessons that we've learned in the United States, not because of American exceptionalism, but because on the digital and ebooks and digital change, we have been in the avant-garde by statistically measurable facts, which I don't attribute to any particular reasons that aren't listed here. The reason America was first with ebooks is because we have 300 million people sharing one language and one set of commercial laws. And because of that, it is possible to do certain things that require large investments at scale that really would make no sense if there were a more fragmented audience with a more fragmented and a more fragmented marketplace. And I want to go back to the very beginning of ebooks in the United States in the early 1990s, long before Amazon, long before Kindle. And when people first thought about ebooks, they did not think about a replication of the printed book. They thought at first, before they started with anything else, about enhanced books. And actually, the first ebooks were created by Voyager Expanded Book, Bob Stein, and the whole idea was to be able to take text and integrate other things into them. Now, personally, I didn't think that that was a very good commercial idea then, and I don't think it's a very good commercial idea now. And I thought then, and wrote in about 1994 and 1995, can you please just give me the text on a disk so I can read the text on a computer? At that time, a laptop was as small as I could get it. But it took until the late 1990s when Rocketbook and Softbook, which were the first dedicated ebook readers, and then the personal digital assistants, particularly the Palm Pilot, made it possible to read a text on a device that you could carry in your pocket. And I still believe that that's the most important advantage of ebooks, that you are liberated from the weight of the additional weight and bulk of reading material, which is a barrier to having the reading material available. This business didn't go anywhere. I started reading ebooks regularly in 1999, and for years I also read print because a lot of the books that I wanted to read weren't available as ebooks. They were only available in print. And I remember an experience which I want you to think about because your consumers are going to have it. For many years, it would take me 20 minutes to find a book I wanted to read in an ebook, because when I searched for American history, which is what I read, or baseball history, which is what I read, or American politics, which is what I read, I would see books. I had read all these books already. There were so few books available as ebooks. The choices were very limited. And it wasn't, even when the Sony Reader was introduced in 2005, I wasn't the least bit tempted. There weren't really any more books available on the Sony Reader than there were on the Palm Pilot. Into 2007, Palm dominated the ebook device reading market, but it was a minuscule market, and it will sound familiar to you. It was far less than 1% of the publisher's market. But then came the Kindle. In the end of November of 2007, and Kindle was an almost instant success. So the question is why? Well, there are several very important reasons. One is, before Kindle, there were no more than 40 or 50,000 titles. Now remember these numbers, 40 or 50,000 titles, and it wasn't nearly enough. That was available before Kindle. When Kindle launched, they had 150,000 titles. Made an enormous difference. Second thing, Kindle, for the first time, allowed you to directly download from the cloud into the device. You didn't have to go through a computer. You didn't have to sync the device. You got the reading material directly. It provided a good reading experience, but also it had the Amazon audience. And Amazon had a much larger audience in the United States in 2007 than any ebook or bookstore has anywhere else today. So they had the attention of many millions of regular book readers, and they had a way to hit them with the idea of the Kindle every time they went online to buy a book. And all of those things were essential. But then Amazon added one more thing, and that was pricing. Because Amazon was selling the Kindle, originally I believe it was $350. I can't remember how much I paid for the first one because it's come way down since then. There was profit for Amazon in that, and they were happy to put that profit back into lowering the prices of the books, even below the cost of what they were paying the publishers, because they knew that if you bought a Kindle and you wanted to read on a Kindle, you had to buy your books from Amazon. You couldn't buy your books from anybody else. So it was worth an investment on their part to get people to adopt the Kindle. But that strategy of lowering the prices was very, very frightening for the publishers. So publishers really in 2000, well, really before 2009, starting in 2007, when the Kindle came out, found themselves facing a very, very difficult problem. Of all of the channels a book publisher sold, and I'm sure this is going to be true for you too, two grow. Everything else shrinks, two grow. What grows is sales of books through online channels and sales of ebooks. Everything else shrinks. Amazon had and has 80 to 90% of the online book purchasing market. That's despite the fact that Barnes & Noble has just as many books as they do. They're a very large company. They are very competent in what they do. They are still a sliver compared to Amazon because of Amazon's early start in the market and their use of pricing as a way of building customer base and using service as a way of building customer loyalty. In the Kindle market, because there were no other devices, Amazon, again, had an enormous share of the market. So if you're a book publisher, you're looking at this and you're seeing, I got two parts of the market that are growing. One company owns both of them. And by the way, they're a tough trading partner. There's nothing warm and fuzzy about publishers doing business with Amazon. It's hardball. They are, I compare them to Walmart. What Walmart believes and what Amazon believes is that the highest value is giving the lowest price to the consumer. That is what they believe, that is a good thing, and that's what they're there to do. And that's why the consumer should be loyal to them. But what that means is that everybody who supplies to them is under price pressure all the time to collaborate on delivering the lowest prices to the consumer. Now, we're all book publishers here. We can be honest with each other. Most of us are not that concerned with delivering the lowest price to the consumer. That is not the way we condition our businesses. And in fact, we look for opportunities where we can add a little margin, where we have a book that is so desirable that even though another book with the same specs is a certain price, we might be able to charge an extra dollar, an extra euro. Amazon doesn't think that way. So there's a real clash between publishers and Amazon as a result. The online sales of books, the hegemony, and it is hegemony that Amazon has established in the United States with that, is unassailable. There's nothing to do about it. They have the customer names, they have the customer relationships. Unless they do something like change their plan and raise their prices or suddenly give lousy service or something goes terribly wrong, that is not going to change. And the Kindle, and this is another important point to take on, the Kindle was locking up the heaviest readers, because you're not going to spend $350 for a device if you read 3 books a year. You're going to spend $350 for a device because you read 3 books a week. And those people are the ones who had Kindles. So when 1% of the people had Kindles, 5% of the books were going to Kindles. When 3% of the people had Kindles, 10% of the books were going to Kindles. They were picking off the most heavy readers first. That's who switches to ebooks first, the most heavy readers. So don't overinterpret the small market share number. It's to your detriment if you do. So all of this added up to a real problem that publishers felt under pressure to solve, and frankly, Barnes & Noble added to that pressure. Barnes & Noble said to the publishers, you like my stores? You want books in my stores? You want me to keep my stores open? Well, you better do something about what Amazon's doing with pricing, because if you force me to match their prices, I don't have money to keep stores open. So publishers looked for a way to level the field. And not being in Europe and not having price-fixing laws as a routine matter in most countries, as it is in most countries in Europe, they had to look for another device, and the device was agency pricing.